Bun găsit, dragi prieteni! Sunt Dana Todor, sunt jurnalist consultant în comunicare. Mă bucur tare mult să ne revedem cu ocazia Cluj Business Days. Avem astăzi alături de noi și o să trec pe limba engleză pentru că invitatul nostru de astăzi este vorbitor de limba engleză. We have here with us today Efrat Avnor, which is a high-level executive consultant and also, as I understand, speaker and mentor for the business and for champion sports teams. With Efrat today, we will speak about how to perform as an individual in the digital era. During the break, I had a short conversation with Efrat about how she found her meaning and what she likes most to do in her professional life as an individual. So my first question would be about that. If you want to tell us shortly your story about how did you discover your professional meaning in this life?
Okay, so I was for over 20 years in the corporate world, mainly in the IT arena, and that means working with huge corporates internationally, running teams, establishing teams all over the world. And it was really something I loved to do. I did it well, but something bugged me. Everywhere it was the same thing. I saw teams with very high potentials, having the tools, having sometimes the budget, having the right methodologies, but the results were not showing as well as I thought it should. Mm-hmm. And other times it was teams that didn't have so much even expertise or knowledge and not even a lot of budget, but they were getting such better results. So surprisingly, I understood that the common denominator for success is human and how we think. And I understood that I can continue in this world thinking that processes, methodologies, and tools are going to be the factor to succeed or not. But the mindset and how people think and the attitude and what they bring as human to the plate is actually the really biggest factor to success. For me, very analytical, very realistic. It was quite of a shock, but I understood that my main project is no longer projects in the IT. It's our life project, and I don't want, I can go into details if you want, but I had a personal experience. In that personal experience, I was forgotten in a business trip, and this business trip, all of a sudden I had to ask myself a very serious question. If I'm not here tomorrow, what does it mean? What does it mean to my family? What does it mean to my business colleagues, to the employees that I manage? And all of a sudden it wasn't around only the knowledge and the expertise, it was what I impacted, what I was contributing to them and to their lives. And I understood all of a sudden that this would have been a different game if I would run with this thought, with all the extra knowledge that I had. So it was really on the instant clear to me that this would be my biggest and most important project. And it's funny, but we say happiness is the most important, but we're not committed to happiness. We say that health is important, but we don't live healthy life with all the pressure sometimes we witness in business. And we need some really good tools to work on the mindset. And I am a believer that this is something that can be changed. It's not whether you're born with or not. So,
how do you work on the mindset?
Okay, so surprisingly, I found out that the mind, actually very abstract, a mind and the brain is not the same. And the brain is the physical part that takes care on translating and transmitting our mind. But it is also scientifically known today that our thinking patterns, thinking is energy, you can measure it, you can measure frequency. In other words, you can get the thoughts energy even if I don't speak. And your mind, your brain even receives it. And it was scientifically now proven that you have a certain neural pathways in your brain. So when a person is shown a picture, for example, he will always have the same neuropaths functioning. But if he goes through a change process, a deep change process, that neuropath would probably die and a new one would be created. So that all of a sudden was not abstract to me. It was, from my logical, realistic point of view on life, very significant, and it made a huge twist. I all of a sudden wanted to know, so how do we create new neuropaths? Instead of saying, this is what you have, this is the company DNA, this is him or this is her, when we know it's not true. Because when you go through a crisis in life, you change instantly. Mm-hmm. So why have only an emotional impact, and usually the traumatic one, to make us change, and then it's possible and realistic that we can, mm-hmm. and not do it in a different way, which is actually the same way we learn how to speak, how to talk, how to swim, which is repetition. Mm. And I understood we have to map situation, and we have to make it very simple, and we have to, with repetition, teach it to everyone. And this is today my mission.
Mm. And regarding the subject of our discussion, digital era and performance, all these things do apply also in the digital era? Do we perform also related to our mindset and our deep meaning, our mission? And are there any other things that matter to perform today in the digital era?
Yes. It's a choice that we make. We can say it's a digital era and choose to relate only to the digital side. But it's not the only thing that takes place today. It's not the only wave that takes place today. I think the last 100 years clearly show that there's a revolution that is taking place right in the opposite, which is awareness, and which is the self-development we all feel like human. This is the reason why all these psychologists, psychotherapists, HR, and I'm putting everyone in the groups, mentors, mental coaches, everyone that deals with like this or the other way with the mind, with the soul, is really rising in the last 100 years to a different level. So the digital age is not only digital. So it will maybe require us to be more accurate, to be more creative, to not mess around with the facts, because everything will be digital and everything you will get and see. But the things that you won't be able to get and see is the most essential needs that we have as people, which never a computer can provide. Just think of yourself coming to work and performing at your best, and the computer says your half a year evaluation is just perfect. You have 100 on everything, and you're going to get a very nice bonus. Will you feel very happy, appreciated, noticed? Will you feel that you contribute, that you're significant, that everyone really knows what you can give and what you... Of course not. So the needs are most vital, and I think we're about to witness a revolution that would bring performance of how we really need to react with one another to a different level. I think that the currency today is relationship and cooperation and collaboration, and without this, the digital won't matter. It goes hand in hand. So one more thing, so it's not going to be a lecture. I think that I'm a believer that we have to look at what we have instead of what we don't have. Usually people are very afraid when they feel they're missing something. And the digital age is in many minds being accepted as something that takes something else. I think that this is the wrong perception. We have to look at what we have today that is growing aside this revolution, aside this digital age. And if we put the focus on there, we see how we can really develop and be created, and then the digital is going to be a tool, an aid. It's never going to be a purpose, because the purpose for us as people is to grow, is to develop, is to be more, and we can do so much more. We can be so much more creative, we can be so much better physically, and we're just getting it. So The digital is just an aid to something really meaningful.
You collaborate with a lot of international companies in Romania and other countries, and as I said, with sports teams. What do these high-level executives want from their people? What do clients want from their collaborators? What is appreciated?
Well, I think commitment. I think loyalty, that you can trust. I think collaboration, and the will or the desire to grow. And many times, high performers don't appreciate people that are not high performers because they don't understand how do they take joy if they're not reaching the heights that they can. So they're looking at those that are maybe with mediocre results as people that don't aspire to be at their best, that don't really commit, that you can't trust, because if they don't commit to themselves, they won't commit to you. If they don't keep up their words for their personal development, they will not do it for you. So they understand it and they really look to receive it. So although they don't always know how to mentor it and how to train it, this is what they're looking for. So
you are here at Business Days in order to share your experience and your knowledge and inspire. What are the main ideas that you want to broadcast to the participants?
Interesting.
You said, for example, that HR is never going to be the same again.
Yes.
For
I wanted to reach this, but let's start with this. I really believe that where you put your focus is where you grow. And I believe that HR has a huge role in this digital world, and the function of HR is going to change completely in this new era. And I think that this is where they need to concentrate instead of thinking that robots are going to replace them. Mm-hmm. It's quite the opposite, because people will have the biggest need to be appreciated, to be significant, to be able to contribute, because that's where they take the satisfaction. That's where they feel they are needed, that people, see them. That's what we need. And HR are going to, at least how I see it, if they put the focus there, they would think on every day how to help their employees grow on a personal level, how to grow on a team level, how to make sure that teams collaborate with one another. I often work with teams in companies, and one team doesn't even realize how the other team works. They don't know its pains, they don't know the task, they don't know the overload. If only one representative would sit for a week with another team and hear the phone calls and be in the meetings and hear what they do and how they do, they would have such a different perception. And I think HR role is to make that happen, to make this interaction between the teams, and also to make, we're an international world, many companies have sites all over. It is very important to learn how your teams across the oceans work, to be exposed to their difficulties, to their culture changes and the impact that it makes, and to be able to transmit a vision on the highest level, so everyone is working for the same goal. We expect it and I gave this example in one of the lectures, that we expect sport team athletes, it's very obvious that you want everyone to perform. You want to look at your, let's say, 5 basketballs players, everyone to be great, everyone to function. But when it comes to teams, we don't come to work feeling like this. We come to a job, we don't come to our career. And this is HR point to put as a really switch to that.
Mm-hmm. Thank you very much. Vă mulțumim că sunteți alături de noi. Rămâneți în continuare aproape, pentru că vom reveni cu noi invitați și noi idei interesante pentru voi.
Thank you very much.